He's a serial killer. He stalks his victims, wraps them in plastic, and spills blood in Miami's moonlight. And yet, we root for him. By every definition, Dexter Morgan is a serial killer, and yet millions of viewers spent 8 seasons and later a revival hoping he wouldn't get caught. We rooted for him. We laughed with him. Some of us even missed him when he was gone. But why? Why would an audience cheer for someone whose actions, in reality, would make headlines as unspeakable atrocities? The answer lies in a carefully constructed blend of psychology and storytelling, one that blurs the line between morality and entertainment. Dexter isn't just a killer. He's a father, a brother, a coworker. He's awkward at dinner parties, he fumbles with small talk, he tries to appear normal in a world that doesn't quite understand him, and in that struggle, we see ourselves. Dexter's writers didn't just create a character, they created a paradox, someone we fear and admire, condemn and celebrate. Someone who forces us to question why we cheer at his victories and what that says about us as an audience. The paradox of Dexter. At its core, Dexter thrives on contradiction. He is both the hero and the villain of his own story. From the very first episode, the show acknowledges the tension. We know Dexter is a killer, but we're invited to see him as something more. Unlike real-world serial killers, Dexter operates by a code. His victims are monsters themselves, rapists, murderers, abusers. In a society frustrated by loopholes and failures in the justice system, Dexter offers a fantasy of moral clarity. This framing is crucial. We're not simply watching a man kill, we're watching someone carry out a twisted version of justice. It's the same psychological trick behind the popularity of vigilantes like Batman or the Punisher. If the system can't protect the innocent, maybe someone else can. And by defining Dexter's victims as irredeemable, the writers absolve the audience of guilt. We're not complicit in murder, we're participants in justice. This paradox is what hooks us. A monster who kills monsters. A villain who feels like a hero. Is Dexter a true psychopath? On the surface, Dexter Morgan is the very definition of a psychopath. He is charming, intelligent, and socially convincing, but beneath that mask lies a predator. His entire life is a performance, a carefully constructed act designed to convince the world that he is just another coworker, brother, or father. The truth is, as Dexter admits in his own narration, "I don't know what made me the way I am, but whatever it was left me hollow." Many of Dexter's traits align with classic psychopathy. He lies with ease, manipulates those closest to him, and feels little remorse for his actions. He thrives on control, ritual, and the thrill of the hunt. His kill room, with its plastic wrap and trophies of blood slides, is a chilling extension of his compulsive need for order. Psychologically, Dexter ticks almost every box. And yet, the show complicates this label. Unlike most depictions of psychopaths, Dexter does form attachments. He loves his sister Deborah, he grieves for Rita, he protects his son Harrison. In these moments, Dexter straddles the line between clinical psychopath and something else entirely. A man torn between emptiness and humanity. It's this duality that keeps audiences invested, wondering if the monster can ever truly be human. The Code of Harry, a monster with rules. Dexter's morality isn't his own invention. It's a framework imposed on him by his adoptive father,
the one time of year
Harry.
when everyone
As
wears
a cop,
a mask,
Harry
not just
recognized
me.
his son's violent urges early, and instead of fighting them, he redirected them. Harry gave Dexter a rule book. Kill only those who deserve it. Criminals who escape justice. Murderers who would kill again. This Code of Harry functions as a narrative shield. For Dexter, it transforms murder into purpose. For the audience, it transforms horror into justification.
I'm alone.
By following the code, Dexter becomes more than a killer. He becomes a vigilante. The moral clarity makes it easier for us to cheer him on. But as the series progresses, cracks begin to show. Dexter is not just a machine following programming. Dr. Evelyn Vogel, the psychiatrist who helped design the code, is stunned when she witnesses Dexter displaying genuine emotions. His love for Deborah, his longing for connection, his grief over loss. For Vogel, this breaks the mold. Dexter was supposed to be the perfect psychopath. Instead, he is something more complicated. A man who lives by rules, but also wrestles with feelings he was never meant to have. Dexter on the page versus Dexter on the screen. To understand why television audiences root for Dexter, it helps to look at where he began, the novels by Jeff Lindsay. On the page, Dexter Morgan is far less sympathetic. He is colder, darker, and far closer to the clinical definition of a psychopath. In the books, Dexter doesn't truly love Deborah, Rita, or even his stepchildren. His relationships are calculated facades, useful masks that help him maintain the illusion of normal life. Even the dark passenger is different. In the novels, it is described as almost demonic, a literal entity driving his hunger to kill. This version of Dexter feels less like a conflicted man and more like a hollow predator with no real chance at redemption. The books also carry a sharper satirical tone, making Dexter's humor darker and his violence more grotesque. The television adaptation, however, rewrote Dexter into something audiences could connect with. Instead of an inhuman predator, we saw a man struggling with isolation, guilt, and even love. By softening his psychopathy and amplifying his humanity, the show transformed a monster into a paradoxical anti-hero. This difference reveals an important truth. Dexter Morgan was designed, at least on screen, not just to horrify us, but to make us care. Living inside Dexter's head. If Dexter Morgan had been written as just another silent killer, the audience would have recoiled. Instead, the show gives us the ultimate tool of empathy, his voice. From the very first episode, Dexter speaks directly to us. His narration is intimate, confessional, and often darkly funny. He doesn't just show us what he does, he tells us why. Take the iconic opening credits. Dexter making breakfast, cutting meat, squeezing a blood-red orange, tying his shoes. Mundane tasks filmed as though they were murders. Without narration, it's disturbing. But with Dexter's witty commentary layered throughout the show, these images become ironic, even charming. His voiceovers also make us complicit. In Season 1, when Dexter stalks the ice truck killer's victims, he explains their crimes, their brutality, their lack of remorse. By the time Dexter wraps them in plastic, we already agree with him. They deserve it. And then there's the humor. At a dinner party with Rita's friends, Dexter's inner monologue cuts through the awkward small talk. I'm not sure what's expected here. Laughter? A toast? Maybe if I had feelings. We laugh because we've been there, fumbling in social situations, even though Dexter's reason for fumbling is far darker. This constant perspective shift transforms Dexter from a predator into a companion. We're not just watching his story, we're inside his head, and that makes us root for him. Villains as foils, mirrors of Dexter's inner world. One of the most fascinating aspects of Dexter is that its villains are not just random criminals. Each season's antagonist is carefully written as a foil, a character that reflects some part of Dexter's psyche, forcing both him and us to confront the morality of his actions. Through these foils, we see not just who Dexter kills, but who Dexter is. Season 1, The Ice Truck Killer. The Ice Truck Killer is more than a villain. He is Dexter's blood-stained mirror. The precision of his kills, the theatrical displays, and the intimate knowledge of Dexter's past reveal that this isn't just a game of cat and mouse. The final twist, that the Ice Truck Killer is actually Dexter's biological brother, Brian, cements this connection. Brian represents what Dexter could become if he abandoned Harry's code, a killer who fully embraces his darkness without restraint. In their confrontation, Dexter doesn't just choose to kill Brian, he chooses to uphold his code and, symbolically, to reject the version of himself that could spiral into chaos. Seasons 1 through 2, Sergeant Dokes. Dokes is unique because he isn't a criminal at all. He's a cop, and arguably the closest thing the show has to a true hero. Where others are charmed by Dexter's mild-mannered persona, Dokes sees through the mask immediately. His suspicion forces Dexter to constantly cover his tracks, and in doing so, highlights just how much Dexter depends on deception to survive. Dokes is a foil in the truest sense. His blunt honesty, moral clarity, and pursuit of justice contrast sharply with Dexter's calculated duplicity. When Dokes is ultimately framed as the Bay Harbor Butcher, it blurs the lines even more. Is Dexter the predator here or the prey? Season 4, The Trinity Killer. Perhaps the most haunting foil of all. Trinity embodies Dexter's greatest fantasy and his worst nightmare, a man who manages to balance a family life with his compulsion to kill. At first, Dexter is fascinated. Here is someone who has seemingly mastered the dual life he longs to perfect. But as Trinity's true nature unfolds, Dexter sees the terrifying cost, abuse, manipulation, and the inevitable destruction of everyone close to him. Their final clash shatters Dexter's illusions, especially when Trinity's parting act of violence leaves Dexter's wife Rita dead. This isn't just another showdown. It's the moment when Dexter realizes that his actions can never exist in a vacuum. The people he loves will always pay the price. At the heart of Dexter lies a paradox. He is, by every definition, a monster, a serial killer who stalks and dismembers his victims. And yet we watch him week after week, holding our breath as if he were the hero. Because the show gives us permission to empathize. Dexter's code ensures his victims are predators worse than him. The writers blur moral lines until his darkness feels almost like justice. Because his foils, from Brian to Trinity, remind us of what true evil looks like. Next to them, Dexter's twisted morality shines almost like virtue. Because his relationships, from Deborah's unconditional love to Lumen's shared darkness to Hannah's romantic connection, humanize him. These glimpses of vulnerability suggest that beneath the monster, there is a man who craves the same things we all do: connection, love, belonging. And finally, because Dexter's constant struggle with identity mirrors our own. We may not have a dark passenger, but we all wrestle with masks, with fitting into society, with hiding parts of ourselves. Dexter's battle is extreme, but it resonates because it feels like a metaphor for being human. Because Dexter doesn't just tell us a story about a killer, it tells us a story about us, about the masks we wear, the darkness we deny, and the hope that even in our flaws, we can be understood.